The silence after the doors slammed shut was deafening. Jerry's heartbeat thundered in his ears. The four friends sat frozen in the corner of the ballroom as every guest stared, white eyes locked on them like they were prey. Vicky whispered, "Okay, this is officially messed up." One of the white-eyed guests, a tall man in a crisp white suit, stepped forward, in front of four frightened friends. His voice was deep, but smooth. "Midnight has arrived," he said, "and the rules begin." Denise gripped Jerry's arm. "Rules?" she whispered. The man's lips curled into the faintest smile. "Rule 1, you must not leave the ballroom. Rule 2, you must not speak to the mirrors. Rule 3, he tilted his head slightly, only one of you will leave." Sandra's breath caught in her throat. What does that mean? But before anyone could ask again, the man raised his hand, and the rest of the guests turned their heads toward the mirrors that lined the room. Jerry's eyes followed, and then his stomach dropped. In the reflections, the guests didn't look the same. Their skin was gray, stretched tight over bone. Their mouths hung open, as if in silent screams. "Jerry," Denise's voice trembled. "Their reflections aren't alive." The piano began playing again, slow and haunting. A woman in a flowing white gown walked toward the center of the room. Her eyes were pure white, her smile too wide. "Let the ritual begin," she said softly. The guests began to move, circling the room in slow steps, all facing the mirrors. The four friends stayed where they were, unsure what to do. Then the tall man spoke again. "Step forward, guests of honor." Nobody moved. He tilted his head. "If you don't step forward, the mirrors will choose for you." Before Jerry could even breathe, one of the mirrors near the far wall rippled, like water disturbed by a drop. From inside, pale hands shot out and grabbed a man in the crowd. His scream echoed through the ballroom as he was yanked inside, his body vanishing into the glass. The mirror went still again. Vicky clutched Sandra's arm. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" The tall man's eyes moved over the four of them. "Now who's next?" Jerry stepped forward slightly, trying to stay calm. "What do you want from us?" The man's smile widened. "The party must have a sacrifice. That is the only way the rest may go free." Sandra's voice cracked. "We're not playing this sick game." The man tilted his head again. "You already are." As if on cue, the candles in the ballroom flared high, casting long shadows on the walls. Jerry noticed something. The shadows of the guests were moving differently from their bodies. They twitched, reached, and swayed toward the four of them. Denise stumbled back, nearly touching one of the mirrors. "We need to get out of here." But the tall man's voice boomed. "No one leaves before the choice is made." The room began to shift. The walls seemed to stretch, the chandeliers swaying even though there was no wind. The music grew louder, and with it came a faint whispering, hundreds of voices speaking all at once. Jerry leaned closer to Denise. "Do you hear that?" She nodded, pale. "They're saying our names." Suddenly, Vicky gasped. Her white dress had begun to darken, not from dirt, but from a spreading crimson stain at the hem. It climbed upward, as if soaking into the fabric from nowhere. "What the hell?" she screamed, trying to shake it off. The tall man's voice grew softer, almost kind. "It has begun. She has been chosen." Vicky stumbled forward, but when Jerry reached for her, her eyes rolled back, leaving only white. Her mouth opened, and a deep, unnatural voice came out, one that wasn't hers. "Only one leaves, the rest will join us in the glass." Then she laughed, low and chilling, and began walking toward the nearest mirror. Sandra darted forward and grabbed her arm. "Vicky, snap out of it." Vicky turned her head slowly, and for a brief moment, her face wasn't her face anymore. It was stretched and hollow, with dark sunken eyes and sharp teeth. Sandra let go instantly, stumbling back. The tall man began counting in a slow, steady voice. 10, 9, 8. Jerry realized what was happening. They were being given a countdown to choose who would stay behind. "Jerry, we can't," Denise began, but he cut her off. "We're not sacrificing anyone." 7, 6. The white-eyed guests began closing in, their movements slow but deliberate. 5. Vicky's head tilted, and she began walking backward into the mirror. 4. Jerry grabbed Denise's hand. "Run." 3. They bolted toward the far side of the ballroom, shoving past the silent guests. Sandra was right behind them. 2. The tall man's smile was the last thing Jerry saw before the mirrors along the wall began to ripple again. 1. The lights went out. When Jerry's vision cleared, He found himself in a different room, smaller. The walls were lined with mirrors, and the only light came from candles on the floor. Denise and Sandra were there, but Vicky was gone. In her place, one of the mirrors showed her, standing in the ballroom, wide-eyed and smiling. But she wasn't moving in real time. She was trapped, frozen mid-smile. A faint voice echoed through the room. 1 down, 2 to go. The candle flames trembled as if the room was breathing. Jerry's hands shook as he stared at the mirror, holding Vicky's frozen image. She was still smiling that awful, empty smile. Sandra's voice was low. "She's gone. Jerry, she's one of them now." "No," Denise whispered, backing away from the walls. "No, we can still get her out. There has to be a way." A deep, slow clap echoed from the shadows. The tall man in the white suit stepped forward, his eyes glowing faintly in the candlelight. "You've made your first choice, though you may not admit it." Jerry stepped in front of Denise and Sandra. "We didn't choose anything. You took her." The man tilted his head. "She was claimed by the party. The only way to leave is to offer another." "Not happening," Jerry growled. The man's smile grew. "Then all of you will stay." The floor beneath them groaned, then split into long cracks. From the gaps came pale, bony hands, dozens of them, grasping at their feet and ankles. The temperature dropped so fast their breath came out in white clouds. "Run!" Jerry shouted. They sprinted to the far door, shoving away the clutching hands. Denise yanked at the handle, but it didn't move. Sandra grabbed a candelabrum and slammed it against the lock. It didn't break, but the sound it made caused all the mirrors in the room to shudder violently. From every glass surface, faces pressed forward from the inside, screaming silently, pounding to get out. "Those are the others," Sandra whispered in horror. "The ones before us." Suddenly, one mirror rippled like water. A pale girl in a white dress stepped through. Her eyes were gone, just empty black sockets. Denise screamed, and Jerry swung the candelabrum, shattering the mirror. The girl's body dissolved into smoke, but the pieces of glass on the floor still reflected her face. The tall man's voice came from everywhere at once. "Breaking a door will not save you. Breaking a mirror will not save you. The only escape is a gift. We're not killing anyone." Jerry shouted into the darkness. "Then I will choose for you," the man said. The walls began to close in, the mirrors leaning inward like they were bending under some invisible weight. The images inside them weren't still anymore. They were moving, reaching, pulling at the glass. Denise grabbed Jerry's arm, her eyes wide with terror. "Jerry," the whisper. "Sandra, you said you heard it earlier, right? Leave before midnight." Sandra nodded quickly. "Yeah, why?" Jerry's eyes darted around the room. "There has to be a way out before their rules fully take hold. Look for anything that's not white, anything." They searched frantically. Candles, curtains, walls, floor, all white. Then Sandra froze. "Jerry, that mirror." At the far end of the room was a tall, cracked mirror with a faint silver frame instead of white. The crack pulsed faintly, like it was alive. "That's it," Jerry said. "It's different. Maybe it's an exit." They ran toward it, but the floor seemed to stretch beneath their feet, the distance doubling with every step. White-dressed guests began to emerge from the mirrors, faces twisted, hands outstretched. Sandra screamed as one grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward the glass. Jerry and Denise yanked her free, but not before her sleeve tore, and where her skin was exposed, it was already turning pale, almost translucent. "She's changing," Denise gasped. "I'm fine," Sandra lied, but her voice was shaky. They reached the silver-framed mirror. The glass shimmered like liquid mercury. Jerry touched it. It was cold, but his hand sank through like water. "This is it," he said. "Go now." Denise stepped forward, but the tall man appeared between her and the mirror. His smile was gone now, replaced by a flat, dead stare. "Only one passes," he said. Sandra's voice cracked. "No, please." The man's head tilted. "Choose, or stay forever." Jerry's mind raced. The man wasn't bluffing. If they didn't choose, they'd all end up like Vicky. Denise's eyes met his. "Jerry," she whispered. "Take Sandra." "I can't. I won't." "No," Jerry snapped. "We're all leaving." But before anyone could stop her, Sandra shoved Denise hard toward the mirror. Denise's body went through the silver surface like water, vanishing instantly. Jerry's scream caught in his throat. "Sandra, what are you doing?" She smiled sadly, tears in her eyes. "One of us had to go. I'm already changing." Her skin was now pale and ghost-like. The tall man stepped behind her, resting a cold hand on her shoulder. "You understand the rules," he said. The silver mirror turned solid again. Denise was gone. The tall man leaned closer to Jerry. "Now join the dance." The mirrors around the room lit up, and Jerry saw Vicky and Sandra inside them, both wearing the white, both smiling with those empty eyes. The music swelled as ghostly hands dragged Jerry backward. He fought, kicked, and screamed, but the mirrors swallowed the sound. His reflection lagged behind him, then stopped entirely, smiling as the real Jerry was pulled into the glass. Outside the mansion, Denise stumbled into the woods, gasping for air. The mansion was gone. Only trees and darkness surrounded her. She looked down at her hands. White dust clung to her fingers. Then, faintly, from behind her, a voice whispered in her ear, "The party isn't over, and you're the next host."